Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ian Miller. Tonight is very exciting for me because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite comic creations, The Rocketeer by Dave Stevens. This is actually the original 1985 hardcover edition of the first story. And the person to talk about that, Dave, is probably the person who knew him best. He is Dave Stevens' sister and is also the trustee of the Rocketeer Trust. Please welcome my very special guest, Jennifer Bawcum. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to meet you. When I saw you at the Rocketeer Trust, which I'm also a member of, I was like, is that his sister? So I was like, let me just message her. And here you are.
Here we are.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful that you took some time out of your busy schedule to talk with me.
Certainly.
Yeah. So why don't we start off with our first question? What was Dave like growing up? And did he have any favorite comics that he liked to read or a favorite movie?
Well, when I was growing up with him, he was 16 when I was born. So he was more like an uncle than a brother. But he was always just amazingly fun and interesting. His room was just this treasure trove of famous monsters from Filmland, and he had a creature from the Black Lagoon, like 8x10 glossy on his wall. And it's funny because that was normal for me. I never felt that his room was scary or any of the monsters were intimidating. I just was always kind of in awe of everything. It was just this little wonderland for me. So yeah, growing up with him was a lot of fun. He was the entertainment for sure. As far as comics, because there was such an age difference, I can say what I have found in his belongings. There was a lot of Marvel, a lot of Spider-Man. Seems like there was a lot of Spider-Man. Like that was one of his favorites. That's the one that stuck out the most. There were a lot of others, but yeah. And as far as all the fan art that he did in junior high school, it was really a mixed bag of Spider-Man, Captain America, Frazetta, just a lot of different influences, even at that young age, that he was able to really mimic their style and their lines, as Steranko, so yeah.
That's very interesting. I'm also a fan of Steranko, so I think he and I would have spoke the same language.
Okay, yeah. And Steranko, interestingly, was a very good close friend and mentor later in his life. Extremely close friend. They would talk on the phone for hours in the middle of the night because artists don't sleep. So yeah, that was kind of how they carried on, was in the middle of the night on the phone when they should have been working. That's really, yes, he was picky. He was meticulous with his art, but he spent so much time investing in his relationships. He was very relational with his intimate inner circle, and I think that's what he was doing a lot of the time when he should have had a deadline to meet.
Yes, I know he was notorious for not meeting the deadlines.
Yes.
So let's talk about his most famous creation, which is obviously the Rocketeer. Do you by any chance know how this character came about and what influenced him to create such a character?
Well, it was he loved the old pulps from the 40s and 50s, and Commando Cody. He was drawing Commando Cody in the early 70s. That was actually an early, I think one of his very first fanzine covers. It was a little tiny thing called Destiny, and he had this Commando Cody on the cover. So that was always kind of in the back of his head, something that he enjoyed a lot. And when you're given carte blanche to fill in the back of someone else's comic book with whatever you want, you're going to throw in some pulps. You're going to throw in Betty Page because he loved her. You're going to throw in the, late 30s, early 40s aesthetic because he loved that too. I mean, it was chock full of everything he loved. Because he could, I can do this, so I'm going to do whatever I want, and that's exactly what he did. So that is kind of how it came to be. Was, really, you're gonna do what you know, and that was really what he knew and what he loved. So
Yeah. Um, it's funny. I was watching the Dave Stevens Drawn to Perfection documentary, which I did find out that you were an associate producer of that, and I was just watching people's reactions when he appeared on, I think, one of the book signings in costume.
mhm.
I was like, that's probably the first time that's ever happened. So he probably created that trend.
Possibly, yeah, yeah. And he had a great, as I understand, he had a blast doing it. He rode in on the side rail of an old classic car, and yeah, just he had a blast. And I think that was in Las Vegas at a comic book store. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, yeah. So yeah, that associate producer thing was a complete surprise. I had no idea. So Kelvin, the director, told me that was sending me some copies of the big huge poster that they had produced,
Mhm.
and he said, "I've got a little surprise for you." And so I opened it up and I start reading all the credits, and it was like, oh, really? Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, it was not on my radar at all, but he had told me that I did put in a lot of work behind the scenes trying to find photos and scans, and I spent at least 30 to 40 hours on my own time trying to get what they needed. For either B-roll, film, or just whatever they needed. Can you try to track down the original photo of this, because the scan we have is terrible? Okay, I'll see if I can find, yeah. So it was a lot of legwork, but it was good, and yeah, the final product was, everybody was happy with it. So I
Yeah.
keep telling him though that I want a director's cut, because so much wound up on the cutting room floor. But I mean, that is the nature of the beast when it comes to film.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely one of the best documentaries I've ever seen about someone like that. And
mhm.
I can imagine that going through all those photos and also obviously those prints, you're like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, it was, I had gone through all those photos before, when he first died. But it's like you forget what all's there, and they were just copious. He took so many photos of just everything and everybody and models. Yeah, so it was just kind of a treasure trove to go back through again, which, yeah, was not bad.
Yeah. Exactly. I do want to ask, talking about the documentary for a second here. How did that come about, and why release it now? Why not release it like maybe 10 years ago?
Well, Kelvin was just getting in. The director was just getting into film. He had a script that had been purchased a few years back. What was it called? 8 Seconds Gone, something like that.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be like, "Are you kidding me?" It had Bruce Willis in it. Um, so he's kind of getting into the filming industry a little bit. And during COVID, he and some buddies who are whiskey and cigar aficionados were sitting there, um, talking about what to do next, and they wanted to do. They just talked about doing a documentary, and one of the guys had said, "Why not Dave?" And so the rest is history. And I
Makes
hope I
sense.
repeated that story correctly.
You did. You did. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a great documentary, folks. If you haven't seen the Dave Stevens Drive to Perfection documentary, it is available on Amazon Prime.
Mhm.
It's worth your while, especially if you're a comic book artist or writer, or you just love Dave's work. It's fantastic. You won't be
Mhm.
disappointed.
Yeah, I've actually had fans of Dave say, "Yeah, I got my wife to watch it, and now she's a fan." So it catches. It's catching, which is
That's
not a
good.
bad thing either. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the first Rocketeer book was very successful, and then it did spark interest in Hollywood, especially at around that time when the Indiana Jones films were coming out. So, especially when the deal with Walt Disney came about. Uh, do you remember your reaction when, if I don't know if Dave told you if the Rocketeer was going to be a feature film, but if he did, what was your reaction to that?
Well, quite honestly, they pitched it to so many different studios for so many years that when he said, yeah, Disney's finally picked it up, it was like, it's about time. We were kind of like wondering if it was going to happen at all. So yeah, we were. I guess it was almost anticlimactic because it was just had been talked about so much that it was like, oh, okay, great, let's get it done. So yeah, but it was an absolute thrill for our mom. She just thought that was the best thing ever, and like the first time she saw the trailer on TV, she was just like, "Oh, stop, watch!" And we were like, "Okay, mom." It was a little dramatic, but I just let her have her moment.
Well, yeah, it seems dramatic, but again, that's a mother being proud of
Yeah,
the kids.
exactly, exactly. It is. Yes, that's why I let her have her moment.
Yeah. You didn't by any chance visit the set at any point, did you?
I did. He had taken, yes, yeah, he took, let's see, he took, I would come and visit him during the summer every couple of years. So one summer, he took me to the Disney backlot, and there wasn't much to see at that point. They were in the process of building the South Seas Club, and he said that that was just an absolutely enormous set because I mean it had to be a full size restaurant. So it was mostly at that point like a bunch of 2x4s and just stick frame. But then the following spring, I'm not sure when, my mom and I drove down, and he took us to see the Bulldog Cafe. It was done, and it was just a work of art. Like the detail that went into that was ridiculous. Like there was a painter that had painted cracks into the paint on the front door so that it looked aged. Um, you know, the tile work was just fantastic. Every detail, the woodwork, it was just you could literally go in there probably and fix breakfast. It was that complete of a restaurant feel. It was so cool. Yeah. And it's really a shame that they moved it to Florida so that it was on some sort of a tour. And then it was not built to withstand Florida's humidity, and it just kind of fell into disrepair. And it was just like, oh, what a shame. That makes me so sad. It was just such an amazing piece. Just an iconic piece of old LA history, that they reproduced for the movie. And yeah, it is no more from what I understand. So,
Yeah, that's always a shame because I always thought, yeah, it would be a great attraction to Disney, but I think they always should have kept it in LA, but also make it a full restaurant because, again, That would be fantastic, just for the fans and all that to see the photos of the set and the cast members, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, they could have repurposed it in a better way. I definitely agree. Um, Putting it on a backlot tour is just kind of, yeah, especially the work that they put into it. I mean, maybe they had to tear up the inside so much because I do know that it came apart in pieces, I guess. So maybe because it was so torn up inside when it got moved that they just didn't rebuild the interior, and that was the best they could do was a backlot. That's just my theory, but I don't know.
I think
But
it's a
yeah,
good theory.
would have been. Go ahead.
No, I say I think it's a good theory.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it would have been phenomenal to have something like that at Disneyland. You know what I mean? How cool
Yeah.
would that be? But
Oh, fantastic.
yeah.
It wasn't meant to be. Uh, what's interesting now is when the film was released, it had such a cult following, but now it's very beloved.
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah.
think that people's perspective about it has changed over time?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Do you think people's perspective about it has changed over time?
About Dave?
No, about the movie.
Um, no, I think people were endeared to it from the get-go.
Yeah.
Um, I think because it's such a sweet film that, it just kind of harkens back to, I don't want to say the good old days because it wasn't that great back then, but it seemed a lot sweeter and more innocent. And I think, when old Hollywood was glamorous and beautiful. And yeah, I think that it was just kind of a fun, swashbuckling, everyman, woman problems. I think it was just something that people could really identify with, you know? So. Yeah, and I did forget. In addition to the Bulldog Cafe set that we visited, I did go at another trip with my parents. He invited us to go to the Bigelow Airfield the day that that he did a cameo in the film.
Yeah.
Okay, so that he invited us the weekend that they were going to film him. He was the German rocket pack prototype tester that got blown up in the Howard Hughes little black and white in his office. So, yeah, we got to go and watch him suit up and look like a German. And Joe Johnston was one of the German officers in the film that you see just for a second. Um, Interestingly, there was a cook that was supposed to also be filmed in the Bulldog Cafe, and he wound up on the cutting room floor, but he also played Hitler. And so you see a little blip of Hitler in that film as well. So he played two parts during the filming. Um, let's see. So yeah, we got to watch him get blown up, which of course it was just a dummy that they blew up. But the actual rocket pack was super crude that they had put on him. It was super heavy, super heavy. Um, while they were waiting to film, he was sitting on the tailgate of a truck and he almost fell backwards into the truck bed because it was so heavy it
Oh,
kind of knocked him off balance. So yeah, it was a big rig. Um, and that was just interesting seeing how Hollywood make their magic. That big explosion, they had literally dug a hole in the ground. And this was right there beside Bigelow's air hangar. So it was all filmed at the same, kind of in a lot of the same locations. So they dug a big hole in the ground, they filled it with gasoline, and they covered it with a big heavy metal disc and then put dirt over the top of that and they lit the thing. Yeah, they lit it on fire and it was a hot, really dramatic explosion. it was hot from really far away. So yeah, it was just really fun that weekend to see how they made some of the stuff. And interestingly, like I said, they were doing a lot of this film the same. They were filming a lot of the things on that location in Santa Maria. So in the distance, you could hear the original chase scene from the very beginning of the film. They were filming off in the distance, so you could hear the little pop, 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 pop of the Tommy guns. They were filming while we were filming the Nazi scene. And then later, was it that same day or the next day? When Cliff finds the rocket pack in the plane, he pulls it out of the backpack, puts it on the table, and the "I wouldn't touch that if I were you" scene where it shot through the wall. We got to see that, so that was really cool. And that was in one take because I mean they shot it through a wall that they had built, and it was like, okay, we got to do this in one take because I don't want to. They didn't want to have to rebuild the wall again, so they did it. It worked, and that was pretty cool to watch too. So yeah, just some fun Hollywood stuff that I got to be a part of, and yeah, we have a few pictures from the set, and yeah, it was really cool.
That must have been cool just to see, like you said, how all that stuff worked and how they did it, and just to be watching, the making of that.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And Billy was there on set, of course, because he was being filmed. So I have one picture of him and I together. And I mean, I'm 5'7", so I'm not short, and he's like six, I don't know, 3, 4. He's super tall. So it's like this huge difference. When I got the picture back, it was like he just looks like a giant next to me. And of course I'm blinking. And back then the beauty of digital, you can take a million pictures and hopefully one of them turns out. And it was like, okay, my one picture with Billy and I'm blinking. Great. Of course.
Yeah, but at least you got to stand next to him. You know.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. He's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I know you. You've been doing a lot to keep the Rocketeer, and more importantly, keeping Dave's work in the public eye. When you go to conventions, do you see fans light up when you promote your brother's work?
Well, I don't typically promote it myself at conventions. Usually, they light up when they get to see stuff in person, like with Octo Little Shop of Pins. They get really excited when they get to see things in person. They get excited. I don't want to. They get excited not to see me, but it's not lost on me that a lot of people who have never met Dave before, I'm the closest thing they're ever going to get. And so for them, it's a thrill to be able to say whatever heartfelt thing, love for Dave, their experience, whatever with the Rocketeer. His art changed my life. Whatever it is, it's kind of a thrill for them to be able to tell somebody about it. Um, and it's meaningful. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I've really only been to primarily Comic Con.
Mhm.
I've been to WonderCon once, um, but yeah, it's primarily Comic Con. And but I will tell you, as a result of social media and the Rocketeer Trust being on Instagram, like people come out of their woodwork when they know that I'm there. It's like, hey, they'll PM me, hey, I want to say hi. Can I meet up with you? So, literally what I do for 4.5 days is just talk to people, which is not bad. It's kind of cool, just it's a very unorthodox job, I will tell you that. But it's good. It's good. So
Well, I won't be the one to say that your brother's work changed my life. I won't be the one to say that because you've heard it many times. So that's not going to happen. Although he kind of has, but again, I'm not going to say that.
you can say it. I won't mind. It won't be cliche. Uh,
Um, what would you say is your favorite memory of Dave?
I would just say laughter. He was just so much. Well, you know what? I do have a favorite. Um, one summer, I had gone down to stay with him for a few days. I want to say this was okay. I think it was the summer of 1988. So it was right before my senior year in high school. And he had just taken me in his old 40 Ford coupe. We tooled all over Hollywood. Um, we met up with an actress friend of his named Yvette Vickers. She was in Attack of the 50-Foot Woman back in the 60s, I guess.
Ah,
Yeah, so we met up with her. I didn't know who she was. She was just a friend of my brother's. And we went and saw La Bamba at Man's Chinese Theater. And that was just so much fun. Just to go be outside. I hadn't been there before, and you get to see all the hand and footprints outside, and it's just the coolest ambiance inside. Um, yeah, and she was just crying her eyes out at the end of because I think she was part. I mean, she was in that era. She remembers Buddy Holly and that plane crash and everything. So I think it hit her harder than a 17-year-old kid. Um, it was a great movie. It was a great time. Yeah, so we tooled around Hollywood for several days in that really cool car and listened to the La Bamba soundtrack over and over and over again. I think that's all we listened to the whole week I was there. And then he took me up to see Harlan Ellison's house. I think he lives somewhere around Laurel Canyon. And again, this was just another one of my brother's friends. Yeah, and it was just his house was not like it was a mansion or anything, but his aesthetic was phenomenal. Um, he had all these alien heads. It was almost like a gargoyle type of aesthetic across the whole front of his house. There were like these alien gargoyles that were kind of guarding the outside of his house, and the inside was really cool, and it was just very eclectic, very memorable. I will tell you that. Yeah, so that was probably my best memory with Dave, was just those several days that I spent with him, just kind of being a part of his life and being a bug on his wall.
that's a great memory.
Yep. Yeah, except for he's been a bachelor most of his life, and so the apartment that I stayed in with him, um, he had this big kitchen trash, like literally a black garbage bag. It was huge, and he had eggshells in it, and it stunk. Yeah,
Nice.
he was the guy that had the stinky eggshells in the kitchen. Yes, I will rat him out because I'm the sister that can.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Yep,
It's all coming out
you have
now. So, yeah,
it.
that's fantastic. Yeah. So, as I've noticed, folks, we have the Dave Stevens website link at the bottom there. And in fact, why don't we show them the website
Sure.
for a second?
Mhm.
Because I think you folks will get a kick out of this. Man. So, obviously, this is the main page here. Uh, obviously, some updates. They have the Rocketeer watches by the company.
Octo. Hmm.
In fact, I actually had to get one of those watches. I have to get one of those watches now.
They're really nice. They really did a good job. Good quality. So I will put in a little shameless plug. Up at the very top right is the mailing list where you can sign up. I do my own text for the mailing list, and I only send it out maybe once a month. And it's just kind of any new news, new products coming out. And I will say the whole website is run by a guy named Tom in Norway, and he had approached Dave, gosh, mid 90s, maybe late 90s. He was a huge fan. He still is. And he asked Dave if he could do a website for him. And Dave said, sure. And so Tom has done a phenomenal job working, reworking, making improvements on the website. And so I will send him my texts, my pictures, and he makes my newsletters pretty and sends them out for me from Norway. Isn't that amazing? I love that. Such a global world. So yes, so if you want to be abreast of all the newest happenings from the world of Dave Stevens, that's where you go, or Instagram with the Rocketeer Trust. So
Yeah. Obviously,
but
we
yeah,
have. I'm sorry. Go on. Go on.
I was just going to say, yeah, the website is fantastic. It's very comprehensive as far as the list of titles. Your collectors are going to go here to make sure that they have everything published that Dave has ever published. Every last spec. So, and Tom's done a lot of research and done a really good job making sure that it's complete.
Yeah. We have the gallery here, which includes the paintings, the sketches, the drawings, the published artwork. You also have a shop which takes you automatically to Etsy.
Yes. So this Etsy is just things that are either new or there's some old prints on here that are vintage that came straight from Graffiti's warehouse when they're in the process of shutting down and cleaning out. And Bob contacted me and said, hey, I've got a bunch of prints here. Do you want them? And I said, yes, absolutely. So there's 4 of them here that are from Graffiti. And then the rest are things either from the documentary or things that I have done. The jade print I've produced, as well as an updated Betty Wow print. And both of those are just on really, really high quality paper and ink. They're pricey because they were really expensive to produce. But I think as soon as I got my hands on it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. These are really, really nice. So, and I think Dave would approve of the quality of them too. So, which was what I was trying to achieve. So,
Absolutely. Aside from Etsy, you also have an eBay store.
yes. Yes. So everything on eBay is under Dave_Stevens_estate. So everything there, which right now I have a lot of prints that are at Buy It Now for purchase. And all of that that was a part of his household. When I get time, I list things that were, on his walls, everything. Wow. Yeah, not his clothing. I really haven't sold much clothing, but just all of his knickknacks, posters, prints, lots of everything. And I still have a ton, and it's so tedious listing on eBay. It's so tedious. So that's why you don't see a whole lot of auction items, just because it takes time. Yes.
Just got to be patient, folks.
Yes. So I'm hoping this fall. I've got a lot of family things coming up, so I'm hoping October, November, I'll be able to list some more things for actual auction. But yeah, there's almost always prints for sale. So
I think I may have to buy a couple now.
yeah, and I will say things on the eBay that are from his estate. There are a lot of his old prints that he would take to conventions and things. All of those come with a certificate of authenticity. So it's a little extra nice little thing to have from his estate just for provenance. So yeah.
Yeah.
which takes extra time too. It's like, oh, I gotta write one of those up again. I've written up thousands.
Yeah, but it's always
But
worth
it's
it.
all for a good cause. It's all for a good cause. So,
Exactly.
and people are really happy to have something from that he owned. Something that came from his house. So,
I'm guessing a good number of the proceeds go to the
Harry Cell.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Periodically, there are payments, checks made to Harry Cell on behalf of Dave Stevens. And IDW also does the same. The proceeds from a lot of the Rocketeer comic books, I believe, still have a percentage that goes to Harry Cell quarterly as comics come out. So,
Yeah, it's a very important cause, folks. So any dollar that you spend on a Rocketeer book or just anything, it goes to the research. So keep that in mind. Yeah. Jennifer, I can't thank you enough for coming on here with me about it.
it's my pleasure.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, as I saw it on another podcast, there was another Rocketeer project on Kickstarter.
Yes. Yeah. So, a couple of years ago now, Scott Dunbier, who was my old editor at IDW, wanted to have a bunch of different artists produce a bunch of stories and put them in a book. And it was called Comics for Ukraine, and it was to benefit. All the proceeds were going to go to victims of the Ukraine. And so Scott had asked Billy Tucci to make a Rocketeer story for that book. And so Billy is now has a Kickstarter going for the next 20 more days or so. And it's a Rocketeer meets Ludmila Pavlichenko, who was a World War I, II sniper in Russia, I believe. And so this book is the complete story, plus all his sketches and concept art, and a little bit of history on Pavlichenko. So yeah, that's what's going on with the Billy Tucci Rocketeer Pavlichenko story. So yeah, I don't know if you have a link or anything, but I'm sure if you can Google it on or do a search on Kickstarter for Rocketeer, and it should show up.
Yeah, I don't have a link with me right now, but obviously
I won't put you on the spot. Sorry.
it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I'm pretty sure at the we'll have a link obviously in the comments. Obviously,
There we go. That works.
exactly. Yeah. So once again, folks, go to davestevens.com. You check out all this great stuff, his bio, all the artwork, which you get a direct link to Etsy or even eBay. I'd highly recommend buying some of this stuff because it's just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
once again, if you haven't seen the Dave Stevens documentary, I highly recommend it.
Me too.
Well, you're the associate producer, so yeah.
I second that.
But Jennifer, I can't thank you again.
Sure. I appreciate having the platform and just to talk about Dave and hopefully get rid of some more of his stuff from his estate. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you'll be thrilled by that.
Yeah, and it's good to to promote my licensees too. Octo does a phenomenal job. Little Shop of Pins is doing a great job. There's a new Captain Action uniform that's a Rocketeer uniform that's out there right now with a pre-order. Executive Replicas has a Rocketeer and Butch action figure, fully articulated. Yeah, so there's just a lot of really great stuff out there that I would like to help promote as I can. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you now got another friend to help you promote.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, folks, I think that's got to be it for us tonight. I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good night, folks.
Thank you. Good night.
Also, be sure to actually follow us on our social media accounts, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you'd like to follow us on YouTube, just hit that like button and subscribe.